What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? It is Kevin with Optimized Essentials, and in today's video I'm going to be sharing with you the art of stretching. Now, this channel is all about optimization, optimized essentials, right? The essentials to optimizing your life, and stretching, in my opinion, is one of the most important things you can do as a basic layer, basic foundation, along with exercise, to support your body in its process in becoming optimized. Now, why do I say this? Because excessively tight muscles can create a lot of postural distortions and cause a lot of inhibition in certain muscles, making them not able to function or engage or activate as well, and as a result lead to a lot of potential injuries in the future or musculoskeletal pain and tension. If you haven't watched my 5 most common but deadly mistakes at the gym, you want to make sure you check that out, because I described what I basically just said to you in a bit more detail. So without further ado and getting this video too much into kind of lecture mode, I just want to show you the way you can apply stretching to your life in an enjoyable, engaging, fun, pleasurable way, right? Because when you first start stretching, a lot of your fascia, a lot of your muscles may be excessively tight. If you do like a simple hamstring stretch, and you're like, this hurts, I can't, then this is going to be something that you will want to slowly build up to and get into. Because when I first started stretching, I hated it, right? It hurt, it was not fun, I didn't know how to get into it. But with anything, as you practice and as you put more attention into it, because you know it's good for you, you become more conscious and engaged and deeply aware of what's going on in your body. And stretching is one of those things that will allow you to really be in touch with what's going on in your body, all right? So I call it the art of stretching because it's an art form, right? It's different for everyone. Everyone has their own style, their own flavor. But at the end of the day, it's basically like the word yoga, right? It's union with who you are, with your body, and it's allowing your body to take you through different processes, allow your body to really lead you into where it needs attention, where it needs help, right? And as you get more advanced into stretching, you'll learn how to manipulate this in your own. But I'll basically take what I go through, what I feel, what I think in my body, so that you can you can experience the type of stretching that actually feels good, all right? So the idea behind stretching, we'll get into it shortly, but I do need to preface this, is you need to work within your comfortable limit. If it's too much, back off of it a little bit. If it's not doing enough, progressively stay in that mid zone of good pressure, good stretch. It's like a really good, deeply relaxing and tension relieving zone, right? You'll know when you're there, when it's not too much and it's not too little, right in the middle, all right? So the very first stretch that I like to go into is always rotational, because I feel that with us, rotating is not something we do that often. We're static in one position and we're not really training our body to go in different motions, all right? So the most favorite rotation that I like to do is, I'll show you 2 versions of this. This is the 90-90 stretch. It's for the beginners. If you can't really get your body in certain positions, you could probably get yourself in this one. You might have a little stiffness, but I like to get my body into 90-90, and then now I like to play around with the range of motion. So I'm going to be heading towards my left leg, the opposite side, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a deep breath, allow my body to get relaxed, because if I'm just going right into it, my body's like, right? And then you kind of feel that tension. But if you relax your body into it, really focus on feeling yourself, and then you slowly kind of drop into that position, now your body is going to be more accepting of that, and you can push it a bit further if you want to. And it's kind of hard to talk and stretch at the same time, because if I'm stretching, I want to be focused in the moment, in the zone, and not talking and feeling, right? That's what you want to be doing. You want to be closing your eyes, feeling your body. Now, the very first thing I feel my body wants me to do is, because I worked out, I have some tension in my thoracic spine and my lower back, and what it wants to do is I want to stretch. So I'm going to take my right hand, I'm going to open up that lat a little bit more, and then I'm just going to rock into it. Now I like to introduce movement into my stretching, because It teaches my body to go through different planes of motion, different ranges of motion, and open up in those areas as opposed to just holding it there. So I want to put my other hand, I'm going to move it up, and then I'm going to reach a little bit more. I'm going to rock into it. I'm going to rotate my head, teach my body how to move, remember? I'm going to rotate my head, and then I'm going to twist a little bit more. See, I'm kind of playing with the different ranges of motion. I'm integrating movement into my body because I'm feeling like, okay, I need to move this way, I need to move this way, and I need to move this way. Now, what I'm teaching here to you guys is super advanced, and if you apply this, it will revolutionize the way you stretch, right? And I'm gonna flip over and do the other side. I'm gonna reach over. This side is pretty tight as well, and I just felt or heard my bone pop, so it feels really good. So what I'm doing is 90-90. My right leg is in front. I'm taking my left arm and I'm turning it underneath my right side, and I'm really getting into the movement where I'm feeling the most tightness. Now, if I feel really tight in a certain area, I'm just gonna drop loose here and just breathe. Yeah, it's really unnatural trying to talk and stretch at the same time. It takes away from the stretching itself. So do what I'm doing here, but do it with even more mindfulness, more intention, and more relaxation, right? Don't force yourself into certain positions and try to like talk at the same time. Just relax into it until you feel like it's gone, then move into certain motions, play around with the different ways, and really open your body up, all right? I like to take that same stretch and do it with the pigeon, going the different ranges of motion, right? Really playing around with it, going into the different areas. Ooh, big pop. So what I'm doing here is I'm not holding these positions because what I'm doing is I'm finding the one that calls out to me the most and then moving into it and getting really deep into it. For me, these stretches, for me personally, don't take more than 15 to 20 seconds. Now, for the average person, that may not be true. You may need to hold this 2 times, 3 times, maybe 4 and 5 times more longer than I do because your muscle has been stuck in that position. For me, I do this every day. So all I need to do is remind my body to stretch out those muscles that are very inhibited, very tight. And all I have to do is just run through it and be done. But for you, what you want to do is you want to do what I just did, but slow it down, right? Slow it down. You might just want to stay in a static position. You might just want to stretch your hamstrings. So I'll show you the version of that I'm talking about. So what you can do is you can just lay into this position, breathe, and do this for 1 minute, and then switch a little bit over. And now I'm feeling more lat activation, and I'm just holding that for a little bit longer, for 30, 60, maybe even a bit more, and just holding that position. This type of static stretching, in my opinion, is good for the beginner, right? What I showed you earlier, which I should have started with this, is the more advanced version, because what I do now, instead of just holding the static position, is I like to play with the ranges of motion. So what I'm trying to do now is, okay, I'm reaching over, opening up my lats, opening up my QL, I'm trying to grab on this foot, and since I can't grab on it because it's super tight right now, what I'm doing is, yes guys, I get tight too, I work out. I grab onto my foot, and then I just rotate this way, right? I'm playing around with the ranges of motions, and it speeds up the stretching for me, and it engages more muscles so that my body knows how to move, right? If you're just staying in one motion, holding it, that's good to allow your body to wake up and get into that movement. But if you want to get better and progress it, you want to do dynamic movement, right? So what I'm doing is I'm just opening, introducing movement until my body is really, really flexible in that position. And then as I'm getting more flexible, then I start to go into different ranges of motion. But you notice how I just chilled there for like a minute, doing sort of the same movement, but introducing like 5, 10, 15 different movements. It's because I want to teach my body how to move. If you just stay in one plane of motion and you breathe into it, that's good as a first step to connect yourself with your body, get it grounded into what it feels like to finally stretch out. And then once you get good enough at it, then start adding some swaying, some rotation, and some different planes of motion so that your body's like, okay, this is what it feels like to move. And then I would do the same exact thing on the other side. You'll notice that one side or the other gets more tight or feels more tense. Then that's when you want to introduce those principles that I mentioned to you earlier. Slow it down, breathe into your body. If it's too much, back off of it, and then just breathe into it. Slowly get yourself down and down and down until you feel like that's the end range of your motion. You don't want to push a stretch more than you can handle, right? Your body will get more flexible over time, but there's a point where it's like, okay, if I push this anymore, I know this stretch isn't going to be beneficial for me, and I might just like make my muscles more like over flexible. What was the word for like hyper flexible or hypermobile? One of the two. You don't want to go past that range of motion, all right? You just want to go into it where it feels like it's just right for your body. Breathe into it, push that a little bit more so that next time when your body gets into it, you can go a lot further and a lot deeper, right? So I just showed you 2 stretches, a rotation, and then now this is a great one to open up your hamstrings, or not your hamstrings, your lats, and stretch out your hamstrings at the same time. So what this does is, if you have a posterior pelvic tilt, what you're doing is you're really opening up the lats that causes kyphosis, and then your hamstrings, which causes a posterior pelvic tilt, all right? So these 2 stretches, all of these ones you want to be holding into, breathing into, and if you're getting better at it, then you want to progress it with movement. All right, and then the next ones that I personally like to do, there's a wide range of them, but the Asian squat and the child's pose, these 2 feel really good for my constitution, which basically means it feels good for my body. You want to find things yoga-wise or something that just feels really good with your body, because every stretch has a different purpose. Every body needs a different stretch, and once you identify the stretch that you like, that's when you can really develop the art of stretching. Because if you don't like your stretches, then it's not art. It just becomes a chore, and it doesn't become an expression of who you are, right? So for me, when I discovered the art of stretching is when I did it enough times and I found something that felt good for my body, and then it became an expression of who I am, right? So the favorite stretches that I like to do is the child's pose, right? Or basically anything that elongates my spine, because I do a bunch of back exercises. I like to do deadlifts and stuff, so my thoracic spine, my erector spinae, that gets very, very tight, right? And I need to stretch it out. I need to foam roll. I need to get massages. But a lot of things that I like to do here is it helps elongate my body, right? So I won't be able to talk as clearly when I'm in this position, but what I'm doing is I'm slowly reaching my fingers up, and I'm literally trying to claw myself forward while keeping my hips intact. So what this is doing is it's elongating my spine, and it's really kind of bringing balance to both sides of my body. So in this position, I typically just breathe here for like a minute. But for the sake of this video, I'm not gonna do that. I mean, I'll do it for like 10 seconds, but I don't wanna spend a minute just laying here so you guys can watch me, all right? Unless you guys wanna do that, right? So typically, let's just say 30 seconds, 1 minute has passed. What happens slowly is my body begins to relax and open up in this position, and then I'll progress it even more because I like to really get my body into its maximum flexible potential, basically optimized state, right? Optimize the essentials. So I reach a little bit more, and then what I do is, because I'm super elongated, now I introduce different ranges of motion to my body. So what I'm doing here is I'm rotating, and then I'm taking my hand, I'm pulling down, and then I'm internally rotating my shoulders. I'm stretching out my chest, and I'm moving with that range of motion. And then let's say I did that for a good few minutes. I like to introduce even more range of motion, and I'm doing the downward dog or upward dog, whichever one. It just feels right for my body. So I'm elongating, breathing in, stretching, shortening my body, right? So I do this for a good 10 times, right? This is only 5 for me. And then after that, I like to get into maybe a frog stretch to open up my hips. And then in this position, same thing. I'm just playing with the ranges of motion. I'm breathing right here, breathing into my groin, pushing my hips back, rocking a little bit. A lot of people say ballistic stretching can be painful. Yeah, it probably can be, you know, or not painful, bad for you if you don't know how to do it. But as you get more advanced, ballistic stretching is pretty cool. So what you do is I'm introducing end range of motion movement, opening up my groin, pulling my hips down, pushing back. And as I'm doing that, what I'm doing here is I'm just really feeling where my body needs the stretch, the movement, and I move my body in a way that encourages an active stretch, right? And then just to end things off, there's a lot more. I basically skipped like 75% of my routine, but just to end the video and show you how to do stretching, what you could do, or the art of stretching is one that I really get into, and probably is another one of my favorites, is the Asian squat. All right, I shared a video about the best exercise for scoliosis, and the Asian squat is one of them, because what I'm doing here is I'm really elongating my spine and I'm opening up my hips at the same time, right? So in this position, I can just drop loose and just relax and breathe. And each time I'm breathing, I'm imagining the vertebrae in my spine open up, and then I like to rock my body in this position. So it kind of like works with the proprioceptors and kind of like resets my motion, if that makes sense. I don't know how to articulate that, but that's why it's an art of stretching. You want to feel what's going on in your body, and you want to gravitate towards the movements and the stretches that your body needs, and then you want to breathe into it. You want to find your rhythm, you want to find your flow, you want to find what feels good for you, and just really play around with the ranges of motion as you're stretching that muscle out or teaching your body how to stretch. So typically what I do is I add rotation, right? I do different planes of motion into this movement. I might strengthen my body in this movement. I'll even get up and do something where it's like out of the blue, creative, out of the, you know, just not even, it's just an art form, right? Once you get into it, you follow routine, but if your body needs something else that day, or you come up with something else, you just start to move in that position, and then you let your body guide you to doing whatever it wants to do, right? And then as you're doing that, you're making it into an art, and that's why I call this video the art of stretching, because everyone has a different way of expressing their body and how it needs to be stretched. All right, so I hope you gained some value out of that. If you did, you want to make sure you like this video, give it a thumbs up, comment below, let me know what stretching routine that you're planning to try or what you're going to do after this video, and share it with a friend who you know is very stiff, and maybe it's you. So yeah guys, have a good one. It's Kevin with Optimized Essentials. Peace.